better get me right now. This is the worst we're going to be. You better get me right now.
Colorado didn't miss every block on Saturday. Deion executed a block. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Last week.
Right? There's a difference. Right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood. It's going to be played on the grass. Right? It's going to be played on the grass. Let's go.
MTV House Party, MTV Raps. It's an embarrassment, it's an abomination, and it's a liability. Don't send your kids there. If you send your kid to Deion Sanders, he's going to come out wearing a hunk of gold chain. He ain't getting a job. He ain't even getting a fucking diploma. He's going to get himself a criminal record hanging out with Deion Sanders in his Fab Five.
You know, guys, sports has a very odd way of showing you who people really and truly are. Now, granted, I'm not talking about somebody blocking somebody on Twitter over some bare criticisms. I'm not talking about a coach, the way he runs his program, even though we're definitely going to be bringing this up in the video. I'm talking about the reactions from Twitter when a football team that was 1-11 last year, who, by the way, has obviously improved because they've obviously got one more win this season than they had last year. But they have a coach who obviously has a very, very polarizing personality, a very, very polarizing figure. Now, me personally, I've always liked Deion Sanders. I've been watching Deion Sanders for a very long time. From when I was a little kid, 7 years old, watching him play for the Atlanta Braves. We used to call him Deion Sanders, the original two-sport athlete, all that type of stuff there, or maybe the most famous two-sport athlete. So obviously, over time, even though you may disagree with somebody on maybe there are certain types of takes or whatnot, you're still going to actually like the person. Obviously, we can be this way. But then you go on Twitter after this team loses or after this team is down 28-0 at halftime to a very good Oregon team, you get takes like what I'm showing you now. Now, guys, obviously, you know me. I don't sit here and just read the tweets, even though there's obviously one tweet in here from a guy by the name of Tariq Nasheed, which, by the way, he also deleted the previous tweet before the one he sent up where he shared this lady saying Oregon is taking a stand for us all. And people automatically think that everybody who was rooting against Colorado, the Colorado Buffaloes, is a white supremacist. When in reality, that's not exactly the case. There was also another tweet up comparing this situation to, or comparing this team to the Fab Five Michigan Wolverines, the team with Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, and I'm going to talk about that too because I think a lot of these comparisons, I think a lot of these critiques are just absolutely stupid. Which, by the way, lets you know exactly how dumb some people really and truly are. And, of course, those wokes get triggered because somebody decides to make a video that's absolutely hilarious in response to Colorado's loss. Check it out.
You know, maybe if Coach Prime didn't have MTV Raps in the locker room before the game, at halftime, after the game, maybe they'd be in control of this game instead of getting beat like a drum. I mean, it's flat out embarrassing. He's running the fucking MTV, got Fab Five Freddy, whatever the fuck it is, Flavor Flav. What an embarrassment. This clown talks a good game. He's got fucking MTV Raps in the locker room. He ain't no coach. That's not a football program. That's a MTV House Party, MTV Raps. It's an embarrassment, it's an abomination, and it's a liability. Don't send your kids there. If you send your kid to Deion Sanders, he's going to come out wearing a hunk of gold chain. He ain't getting a job. He ain't even getting a fucking diploma. He's going to get himself a criminal record hanging out with Deion Sanders in his Fab Five Freddy, MTV Raps. Go, 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 go. Damn.
Pure comedy. And to go on top of this, people got upset because the head coach of Oregon gave a speech.
In substance, not flash, rooted in substance. Today, we talk with our pads. You talk with your helmet, right? Every moment. The Cinderella story is over, man. Right? They're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. There's a difference, right? There's a difference, right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood, it's going to be played on the grass, right? It's going to be played on the grass. Let's go.
Based upon the rappers, based upon all the hype, there are a lot of people out there who believe this team right here, for the most part, is being passed on the American people, kind of like being forced upon the football fan as a whole. Well, I mean, I just told you guys earlier that, what was it, during a 5-hour span between 12 p.m. to like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I had to hear Colorado being advertised to play LSU the very next weekend on Fox. I mean, it was every single commercial break. So, Yeah, I think a lot of people are already tired of other examples of teams that, quite frankly, we just felt a little bit overhyped. If you were a baseball fan in the 90s and you had to watch the Yankees win the World Series every year, you probably got tired of them. Even after September the 11th, you probably felt somewhat happy about Arizona beating them in the World Series. Yeah, trust me, there was a part of people that actually felt that way. I know this very, very well because my stepfather is a Yankee fan, and quite frankly, at that point in time, it was extremely aggravating. As a matter of fact, the house was full of Yankee fans, and I, quite frankly, could not feel nothing but absolute joy the minute that Luis Gonzalez got that game-winning hit, even though I'm not a Diamondbacks fan. This right here is not the only example. I'm sure that Bears fans, they hate it when the Packers win all the time. I'm a Packers fan. I hate it when I have to listen to the Bears win, because when they win, they don't let you forget about it. I mean, if they get one over on you, it's almost like winning the Super Bowl. Same thing with the Vikings. People already have natural discontent towards certain teams. And of course, I just mentioned some rivalries, but other athletes too. People wanted to see Muhammad Ali get beat, especially after he decided he wanted to avoid the draft. He did eventually make up for that to a certain degree, but still at the same time, I just advise you guys to check out Crowder's video on that because he did a very, very good video on that one. Fact of the matter is that there are people out there who are polarizing that, quite frankly, are going to make you angry, and of course, And of course, there are some people out there to go on top of this who already do not like Deion Sanders' personality anyways. So anytime they think of beating Colorado, they're automatically thinking to themselves, we got one over on Deion. And here I am, a guy who doesn't agree with a lot of Deion Sanders' takes, but I actually like him as a person. Of course, I grew up seeing him play baseball, seeing him play football, and kind of viewing him as a bit of a role model when it comes to athletes. Then again, at the same time, though, there was obviously some actions, some attitudes that he had that, quite frankly, were not becoming. But at the same time, though, Deion, for the most part, was a likable guy to some, and to some people, he was not. So therefore, that will automatically make him polarizing. So race has got nothing to do with this. Now, guys, this right here is the first of two videos I have planned for Monday, and both of them are going to be sports related because we're talking about the overall feminization of sports itself. And of course, if you can't take certain criticisms, then obviously people are going to look at you and say, well, wow, I guess that person right there is totally and completely feminized, because they get very, very fickle. They get very upset when you just simply point something out about it. Well, I don't think that's the case when it comes to Sanders. However, I think a lot of people are having some, let's just say they're having a lot of knee-jerk reactions to what happened. And of course, people are responding and they're being overly emotional when that right there is not the case. Let me kind of break this down for you guys best I can. Earlier today, I was watching my team. I was watching the Packers play football. I'm just using it as an example because people oftentimes get in their feelings. So the Packers, they are down 17-0 to the Saints, okay? And you see a lot of people going crazy, blaming the defense because Green Bay, quite frankly, they were down 17-0. For 3 quarters of the game, the defense actually held the Saints in place. The offense is what absolutely sucked, and they didn't start to put together a drive until the very end of the game. They put a 3 spot on the board in the 3rd quarter. They eventually scored a touchdown in the 4th quarter. Then they eventually scored another one. Jordan Love had kind of a christening moment. And obviously, as a longtime Packer fan, I've seen a lot of these moments from Brett Favre and from Aaron Rodgers both. And obviously, we just had one from Jordan Love. But people the entire time continue to criticize the defense, even though the defense is actually what kept the team in the game. And I personally gave Rashawn Gary the MVP award of the game if I had to actually choose, because I think the man had like 3 or 4 sacks in the game. And his play is really and truly what kept Green Bay in it. By the way, they did this without David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins. Now, really quick. If you know my content, then you know it's mostly social commentary in nature, and you're probably saying to yourself, why are we going back to the sports thing? Well, because sports is, quite frankly, supposed to be a uniting thing. It's not supposed to be political, regardless of how you may feel about something. We are there to either cheer on a team or cheer against the team. Sports is not supposed to be political at all. It's supposed to really be for everybody in a lot of ways, even though that might sound a little bit crazy because it really isn't, but I'm pretty sure you guys know what I mean. Sports is obviously something that's supposed to appeal to the masses, a lot of casual fans, but then again, we also get a lot of casual fans that really and truly don't know what they're talking about, which is exactly what I think is going on in this case with Deion Sanders. And these same fans got upset because Deion's team, Colorado Buffaloes, they went to play Oregon, and they got absolutely stomped in the ground. Now, guys, people believe that Deion's club is a club that's basically being overhyped for practically no reason. Speaking of that game I just mentioned between the Packers and the Saints, I want you guys to hear this really quick. Altogether, I would say there were probably, maybe if you count halftime, the pregame show, if you count going into the game, during the game, I would say there's probably, off the top of my head, I would say maybe 15 to 20 total commercial breaks throughout the entire period that I'm watching the game. It's right, includes halftime, and of course it includes the pregame show too. I'm going to tell you right now that in every single commercial break, this team, University of Colorado, was advertised. Their game with USC, which, by the way, is probably going to be another L for them because, quite frankly, this is a team that's trying to, like I said before, they were 1-11 last year, so obviously you don't expect much out of them going into this year. I saw this team get played in every single commercial break. The game that they're going to be playing next week is going to be televised. Does that sound like maybe a team might be getting hyped a little bit more than others? So obviously a lot of people are kind of tired of the hype, but here we are. We're having this discussion and people are trying to say that it's racial in nature. Guys, let me let you guys in on a little secret really quick. There was a UFC fighter. He still fights. His name is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is obviously an Irishman. Conor McGregor talked a lot of trash. I personally used to not like Conor McGregor. I used to hate Conor McGregor. And then I got to see exactly what Conor McGregor was doing on the side when it came to signing belts for kids, doing things for kids who, quite frankly, were on their last legs. He was doing a lot of good things. Now, granted, he got a little bit over the top with the Floyd Mayweather stuff, which, by the way, is exactly what we expected because you got to be able to sell a fight, and therefore you obviously need to hype it up, need to talk a little bit of trash. However, I think that the moment of which that people, quite frankly, may have actually began to, really and truly root against Conor wasn't the first Nate Diaz fight, even though I remember that night very well, and a lot of people inside that Hooters were absolutely cheering when Nate choked him the hell out. It was the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. It was that fight there. It was all the trash talk. It was all the hype going into that fight that when Conor actually lost that fight, when he tapped out to a neck crank, everybody in the whole world began to celebrate. And then, of course, it's the second Dustin Poirier fight. Then it's the third Dustin Poirier fight. I mean, if you guys remember this.
McGregor wanting to make sure that it is a doctor stoppage, and that is what
people thought was absolutely hilarious. We've been wanting to see him lose for a very long time. I mean, even myself, like I just said, when I started to find out some of the things that he did, I began to actually like the guy. But even then, there was still a little something inside me that wanted to see Conor McGregor get his butt kicked. Okay? We wanted to see him get humbled, and Conor, of course, never really and truly did, at least as far as the octagon is concerned. Napoleon Bonaparte made a very good video on Conor McGregor, especially when it came to that last Dustin Poirier fight. He was actually showing who he really truly was, because you could even tell by the way he was talking at the end of the fight that he let his north side accent slip. But still, though, let me get back on topic. The fact of the matter is that people, for the most part, wanted to see Colorado lose. This is what they wanted. Racism, racial connotations, whatnot, did not matter here. But then again, though, at the same time, though, I hate to say this, but somebody who I normally pick on and make fun of on this channel a lot of times, or at least I did when I did mostly sports takes, Ryan Clark actually made a very good point here.
Though he's not doing anything wrong, and Deion's only being him, those kids are only being them. If we as a culture didn't understand and grasp who they are, grasp where they're from, understand that sort of swag, then we would see it differently. If it wasn't Deion and we didn't love him so much and we weren't so used to Prime being Prime, right? When you're watching Shedeur Sanders at the end of the game with sunglasses on and they're asking about him and we say, all I'm thinking about, I don't know, was the Brady effect or whatever he said, right? Another 20-year-old kid says that about Tom Brady. We got something to say. And don't get me wrong, I like them, right? I want to see them win. All I've done is back Deion and the program from here. But like, be straight up, bro. The way these kids are acting is somewhat, at some times, insufferable. And if we had watched other kids in college behave this way,
it is because of Prime's personality and who Deion Sanders was. I mean, it was because of that right there that I think a lot of people kind of say, look, you know what? Maybe it really and truly is fun to see him lose. Maybe that there's the case. But then again, though, at the same time, I think that a lot of people may want to embrace Deion Sanders as a coach because Deion Sanders is bringing back a lot of old school stuff to college football. Now, guys, really quick before I play this for you, I want you to know right now there's going to be a header over this, but this was from 60 Minutes a week ago.
Was less embracing of the incumbent Colorado players. At the first team meeting in December, Sanders encouraged players to enter the transfer portal, an open market for athletes to find new schools.
I promise you, it's my job to get rid of them.
And make room for superior talent he planned to bring in. More than 50 players eventually transferred out.
You got here and you didn't pull punches. You told some of these guys.
Have I ever? You take a team that's won one game and you fire the whole coaching staff. So who did the coaching staff recruit? The kids. So the kids are just as much to blame as the coaching staff. And I came to the conclusion that a multitude of them couldn't help us get to where we wanted to go.
You told most of these guys, the more you jump in, the more room you're going to make. Those of you we don't run off, we're going to try to make you quit.
Yeah.
You made it very clear.
Yeah. Now, if you went for that, if you were able to let words run you off, you ain't for us, because we're old school staff. We coach hard, we coach tough, we're disciplinarians. So if you're allowing verbiage to run you off because you don't feel secure with your ability, you ain't for us.
If some kid said, you know what, no, I'm staying. You're not going to run me off with your words.
Right, stay.
So
prove it.
I'm sure that your straight talk was appreciated by some, but is this scorched earth policy good for college football or for the kids?
I think truth is good for kids. We're so busy lying, we don't even recognize the truth no more in society. We want everybody to feel good. That's not the way life is. Now, it is my job to make sure I have what we need to win. That makes a lot of people feel good. Winning does.
I got to push back on this. You're a father of college athletes.
Yes.
If they called you and say, hey, we got a new coach and they're telling me to get in the transfer portal.
I say, son, you must not be doing well.
That's what you'd say.
You must not be doing well, because you should be an asset and not a liability.
He also got rid of the mask mandates at the University of Colorado for the football team. Now, guys, we could sit here and talk about whether Deion Sanders is a good coach or not. Jason Whitlock, he released a video. I showed you guys a part of this earlier where it was that Deion blocked him, which, by the way, does make you think that maybe Deion's a bit of a diva, because Deion, of course, blocked a guy who was giving him some form of criticism. But before we get to that I need to go ahead and play this right here before we get on the other side of this entire discussion of whether he's a beta male or whatever, or he's a secret beta male. I mean, because I think that the post-game press conference, by the way, I'll leave the full 10-game press conference in the description box for you guys, roughly about 2 minutes here that's going to play. Make sure you guys listen all the way through, because I'm not really and truly seeing a guy who is a quote-unquote fickle person.
It's a good old-fashioned butt kicking. No excuses, no nothing. Their coaches did a heck of a job preparing their team. Obviously, we didn't. That was good. I mean, that was a really good old-fashioned butt kicking. We went into the game wanting to dominate several phases. We lost offensively, defensively, as well as special teams. That fake punt kind of got them really rolling, and they didn't stop. Ever since they secured that first down, well-coached team. Bo Nix played his butt off. Defensively, they presented some things that I guess we just couldn't get around. We couldn't advance the ball, rushing or throwing the ball as well. Seemed like they had our number. I gotta watch the film. He is sometimes, the routes sometimes, the calls sometimes, the blocking. So it's a whole lot goes into that. So you really have to watch film to really dictate and understand what transpired on that specific play. So a lot goes on in the play.
What's the message to the team afterward?
To get your butt up and let's go. We ain't got time to have no pity party. There's nobody walk around the locker room with napkins and tissues. Get your butt up, let's get on that plane, let's go. We got work to do.
I guess on a positive note, that's some bad play. Is it good to get some of those guys finally going, involved?
No, because that means you got your butt kicked. When you start putting guys in at the end, that means you got your butt kicked. No.
But I mean, like Travis Jay, guys played a little.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted them to play, but I mean, no. Play in practice, I don't say stuff just to say it for a click, you know, contrary to what somebody say. But yeah, I keep receipts. But I'm serious. I analyze and I understand what we're up against and what we have and what we need. One thing that I could say honestly and candidly, you better get me right now. This is the worst we're going to be. You better get me right now.
It seems to me like Deion took his team out there and quite frankly, they just got their butts kicked. It just seems to me like that right there was the case. It seems to me like he actually knows that his team lost, okay? It seems to me like he actually knows that not only did his team lose, he needs to go back and look at some things. Deion Sanders has always had a certain swag about him, but he always backed it up with his play. That's who Deion Sanders is. But now he's a coach, and many people are looking at this and they're saying to themselves, okay, well, he can't be bringing this stuff into the locker room. He can't be bringing this stuff onto the football field. He can't be giving this stuff to his actual players because it may send a very, very bad message. However, I do think it's very possible that Deion Sanders taking the job, knowing the risk of taking the job, I think he already knows that they're definitely going to have a bit of a, let's just say he's definitely going to be somewhat marked when it comes to this actual venture. Go back to what you guys heard earlier. The 60 Minutes reporter, the guy who was asking questions, he was talking about pushing back on Deion because Deion, quite frankly, was being kind of tough on his players. It's football. You're supposed to be tough on your players. Baseball, you can be tough to a certain degree. It typically tends to work when you discipline a player or you actually coach a player one-on-one. It typically works better then. In football, head coach, guess what? He's got to be in people's faces. He's got to be hard. He's got to be rough. Same thing with hockey, too. You want these guys playing with emotion. Some sports are a little bit different than others. The fact of the matter is this right here. When I say sports is for everybody, that does not mean that every single sport is for everybody. What it really and truly means is that obviously sports has a general appeal to everyone in the world. Somebody could play a certain sport, that there may be their thing. Football requires some level of toughness, and it's this level of toughness that we're losing, especially in this politically correct society, that quite frankly is creating very, very weak men, and I believe Deion Sanders knows this. But about him being a coach, I'm going to play that full Jason Whitlock segment, that little video he played. I'm going to play it all in full for you guys really quick, and I'm going to want to get you guys' thoughts on this, but I'll definitely be giving you guys my thoughts as soon as this plays.
Colorado didn't miss every block on Saturday. Deion executed a block. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Last week, Deion didn't even know who his starting center was. Who? Remember that? And you wonder why the Colorado football team is struggling with its offensive line? The head coach doesn't care. He's Coach Prime. Nicknames and slick social media stuff, that's not how you build an offensive line. That's not how you construct a running game. It's not just about talent. It's about environment and culture and instilling a mindset and an attitude. That's how you establish a running game. That's how you build an offensive line. Coach Prime, unblock me.
Really quick, and this is going to be where I pretty much end the video at. Whitlock has got a point. I do think that Deion Sanders blocking Jason Whitlock is, I don't know, maybe that right there could be a sign that maybe he doesn't want to face any form of criticism. I mean, you guys obviously saw bits and pieces of that press conference. To me, I think with him being at a much, much larger program, you might see some cracks there. But then again, at the same time, I actually think that Deion Sanders handled himself pretty well there. Fact of the matter is this right here. They lost that game because they were not prepared. They lost that game because they played an Oregon team that was a lot better. People were rooting against said team because the media has overhyped this team. The media also at the exact same time has not only hyped this team, but they're putting that team absolutely everywhere. Like I said before, roughly 20 separate commercial breaks in a span of about 5 hours, every single commercial break, we've got to see Colorado and USC being advertised. It seems to me like people's concerns are, in fact, valid. Now, like I said before, I got nothing against Deion Sanders. I actually like Deion. I actually think it's very, very possible he could end up being a very good coach. He's very, very knowledgeable, especially as a football player. I think that obviously he slipped up, but I think the whole outrage over people saying that this player was racial in nature, that people were rooting for Oregon because of that, I think that right there may be going a little bit too far. And I think to go on top of that, not only is it going too far, I think it's misplaced. And after a while, when you start using that R word, which by the way, racial word, racist, whatever, I don't even know how YouTube is actually approaching this crap anymore, because political correctness is absolutely what's going to destroy this society. It's actually going to destroy this country. The fact of the matter is, there was no racial connotation here at all. I mean, last I checked, there's white kids, black kids, Hispanic kids, all playing on each team, on Colorado, and of course playing on Oregon as well, at every college program. So I don't think racism had anything to do with it. But guys, before I conclude this video, there is one more thing I need to say. And I know I mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to, because every now and again I might say something and then all of a sudden not touch back up on at the very end. You guys know me. It's about the Fab Five, Michigan Wolverine team. A lot of people at that time, looking back on it, did not actually like them because of the way they carried their business. By the way, a lot of people didn't like the Bad Boy Pistons because of the way they handled their business, the way they carried themselves. However, I don't think the Fab Five needs to be what we call something to compare this situation to. And let me explain the reason why. Deion has got a team that was 1-11 last year. They're obviously 2-1 now. They're probably going to be 2-2 next week, but he's building a program, obviously. The Fab Five was a basketball team that went to back-to-back national championship games, and in their first one, they got spanked by my Blue Devils. The following year, they lost to Dean Smith's Carolina team. I'm not a Carolina fan, even though I'm obviously from the state, and I will pull for them if they're in the NCAA championship against a team not named Duke, because I am a Duke fan. But I have no idea why we still revere that team. If anything, it's probably a more of a missed opportunity than anything else. I mean, at least the Bad Boy Pistons won 2 rings. With that right there being said, guys, I just figured I'd go ahead and talk about the stupidity of the day, the stupidity of the weekend. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys share the video. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Share the video, pass it around with your friends. Please leave a comment, and please, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button so that way YouTube algorithm will actually pick up on the video and actually get out to people, and I'll see you guys later.